Hi. Um, so today I was watching a lot of Inside the Actors Studio videos and the interviews with James Lipton. Can't speak. Um, yeah, and it got me thinking about things you don't try in your life, like things you wish you could do and were. You don't go for them because they're ridiculous, termed by society, like being an actress. It's almost funny. I always saw myself being good at being interviewed. Like if someone was to talk to me and ask me the questions from that show and talk to me about my life, I think I'd have things to say that can impart wisdom on people. I have ideas. Everyone does. I guess everyone feels the same way. Thus is empathy and connection of humankind. But I don't know. You wonder if you have hidden talents because you didn't really try or believe you could do things. Yeah, I remember, how surprised I was in 4th grade when I auditioned to sing in a solo in the choir, our forced choir that we were in elementary school. They forced everyone into it. And my friends just said, go sing, go try it. And I did, and I got the part. I guess because no one else was better, and I'm not saying I'm a good singer. That was the only time I really sang in anything like that. And then I was in choir and stuff in high school just for fun. But I remember really enjoying it. And then, I tried sophomore year of high school, I acted. I don't remember why or who or how I got into it. I just did it. I wanted to try it. And I remember going to my audition and feeling really confident. The role, the audition little piece that they had, I think I was being mad at some kid for killing puppies, which I easily brought out of myself. That is someone in me. That character that I brought out is something I would act. And I could tell they liked me, I actually, it was my first time in a play or something like that, and I got a supporting role. Sort of supporting, it was small. And looking back, I thought so much of myself, but then you think, it's probably partially typecast because it was a teacher's role, and I look like a teacher really easily. Put my hair up, and put me in a classy outfit, and voila, teacher. But, yeah. I don't know. It was fun acting. I remember I was definitely nervous. On stage, I was very nervous, and I don't remember how I did. I don't even know if there's videos of that. I'd love to see how I was. See a video of that. Maybe I'll look that up later or ask someone. Because I never got to see it and see if I was any good. Of course, everyone said it was decent enough. My part was small enough. But, yeah. Maybe I should have pursued that more. How do you really know, when you should jump for that thing? When you don't get a whole lot of, I don't know, push behind it. Recently we pulled a prank on a friend, a prank call kind of thing. It was an April Fool's Day joke, and I had to act the part of a college girl, saying she thinks she's pregnant. I wasn't talking to the guy, but I was talking to his friend that I'd been with, and saying, I think I'm pregnant, I don't know what to do, stuff like that. But I made it very, I pulled it off. At first he knew it was April Fool's Day, and he knew I was joking. He immediately assumed that. But I was able to act well enough to pull him back from that and actually have him believing me at the end of the phone conversation. And then I said April Fool's and laughed my ass off. But it was kind of, I don't know. I looked at the phone kind of surprised after I hung up, like, wow, I convinced him I could act that. I definitely have speaking skills and such, so I don't know, sometimes I wonder if I should have tried more, gone for that. Because, like, I would love to be in the acting world. And so many people say that they want to be famous. I would want to do it for the humanitarian efforts I could accomplish. Because if you think about it, everyone wants to be like an active, well, not everyone, but a lot of people want to be activists and humanitarians and act philanthropically, but you need to have an image to get people to follow you. I mean, look at Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, Natalie Portman, and so many more. George Clooney, I could go on and on, Robert Redford, but their efforts are partially successful simply because people follow them because of their standing, like their fame, their celebrity. And you kind of need that. Anyone will say, oh, like, no, you don't need it, you can just put the work in and get involved and stuff, but how nice would it be to just step up, and because of who you are, people will follow, you know? Like the president, you know? It's like a status. Yeah. And, like, I really would love to do that. Like, if my life's work could be to just try and impart good into the world, and to try and, like, if it could be that I could just stand up and say, you know, here's something wrong, let's all try and fix it with the human effort that we can, and people would follow me, that would be amazing, you know? Instead, I have to work a mediocre life, kind of in the shadows, because not everyone's blessed with a standing, you know, a famous name, or access to things, you know. Like Natalie Portman, I was watching her interview, and I love her to death. She's absolutely one of my biggest idols. But she had a lot of luck in her life. Like, she was discovered just because she was pretty, and then the fact that her first movie was a classy movie. I mean, it was a not some joke. She got lucky. She got really lucky in her life, and that's how she. That's not all how she got where she is, but it's definitely an influence, I think. And I mean, we're all lucky. People who are born attractive and then have that, you know, have that over others. It's lucky, you know. I guess it's all a game of luck. I don't even know if I believe in luck, but I don't know what another word, or I guess things are fated. I always like to say, I don't know if I believe in fate or if I believe. I mean, I'm agnostic. I don't believe that there's a God, but I think there might be something that kind of pushes us around, makes things happen. But I think that maybe it's a mix of both. Kind of like in Forrest Gump, how Tom Hanks says, well, Forrest Gump, you know, maybe we're all kind of just floating around, but there's also something like a breeze that kind of guides where we float. Yeah, I think that's kind of how it is. What else? I also like something else Natalie Portman said a lot. She said how if she arrived at heaven, she would want, like God or Jesus, I'm not sure which one, but whoever is at the pearly gates to say, everything you've done good in your life was not just to get you here. And she went on to explain that she doesn't believe that you should do things good in your life just to get you into heaven. And I completely agree. I think that that's the downside of religion, that, you know, people do things because it's the Christian thing to do, or, you know, I think you should just do things because it's the human thing to do, it's the kind thing to do, it's the right thing to do, you know? If I see someone, you know, about to be knifed to death, I'm not going to go save them because I want to go to heaven. I'm gonna go save them because it's what's happening to them is wrong or not part of human good. Yeah, I really like what she said, how she put that. That's how I would have put it. She took the words right out of my mouth now. That's another thing about religion that I don't like. I don't mind if you're religious, I really don't. But I don't like when people are religious and it's out of fear. Like, they believe in God because they're afraid that if they don't, they'll go to hell. Because if you don't, you go to hell. That's the way religion goes. If you're going to believe, have better reasons than that, you know? Like, and other than your parents raising you that way, have some standing on it. Like, don't just, I don't know, be afraid of hell. You have to face your fears anyway. I've been thinking a lot about, like, fear and facing it, and Batman kind of teaches us, face your fears. I have a friend, and her parents are very controlling, and she's the baby of her family, and she was telling me, you know, she's afraid of a number of things. Like, she's afraid of swimming because she almost drowned, and she's afraid of different things because of fear of getting hurt or risking her life and such. And I mean, it's her choice how she lives, but personally, I choose not to live in fear. Most everything I'm afraid of, I've faced, you know? Like, sometimes I'll even challenge myself. Like, if it's dark and I'm scared to walk from point A to point B, I'll stop and I'll say, Alyssa, you're going to walk through the pitch black from point A to point B. And, I mean, I guess I do it just because, I don't know. I don't really know why. I think it's better. I don't want to live in fear. I don't want to not do things just because I'm scared. Because you only have one life to live. YOLO, I just use it, really. But, yeah. Like, I remember being scared to climb a tree and doing it anyway, or being afraid to ask a guy out or something like that, and, you know, I follows up and I do it. I mean, there's things you have to do. You have to face these things. You can't just live your whole life avoiding them. I've talked to her about it, but I can't force her to do anything. That's her choice to live that way, or, you know. And I'm sure her reasoning is, I mean, she's very scared because she almost drowned. I can understand. I mean, I've almost drowned before in the ocean. I was tiny. I was a tiny little girl, and I got rolled over by a wave, and I remember not being able to get up and almost drowning and getting up and saying, I almost drowned, and no one believed me. No one really. They thought I was being overdramatic. I never thought I was overdramatic, but my parents seemed to think anytime I said that I was almost dead or hurt or something, it wasn't real. I was just exaggerating. That's the way I grew up. Basically ignored. I'll never forget when my parents, I had bunk beds and I was on the top, and I remember leaning, trying to get something out of the top bunk and starting to fall. And I couldn't get myself back up. I was like a little girl. I was never really strong. And screaming for my parents to help me, like yelling at the top of my lungs, screaming. And like 10 minutes later they come in, and I had already fallen on my head, hit my head off my dresser, and fallen 10 feet to the floor. Because they took their time, because they thought I was just being overdramatic. And then they realized that maybe I was actually in danger. Their only child, falling 10 feet and hitting her head on something and possibly cracking her neck. I mean, they definitely, oh my goodness. I don't know. And then I was just having another conversation with a friend about grief. Not grief, I'm sorry, guilt. And, you know, succumbing to guilt or not. And this relates to the other friend again. My one friend is very controlled by her parents. I mean, unbelievably controlled to the point where she's in college, and her parents call her every single day, and they talk for a long time, and I understand. I really do. But I think there's a point where, I mean, she takes the call no matter what. And she won't do things because of her parents, and like they're coming to visit and ruining a weekend plan that she had to go and have fun, and she can't say no because they guilt trip her. She says that they make her guilty, and that's why she does everything they want. I mean, don't get me wrong. If your parents raise you and they try and do right for you and they give you money and stuff, of course you owe them something. You owe them your time, your calls. But there's a point where you gotta cut the umbilical cord. Like, and you have to overcome guilt, the guilt of that. I mean, I had another friend arguing with me about going to classes. Oh, don't skip class. I'd feel too guilty. I mean, if there's reason behind it, sometimes you just have to overcome guilt. You really can't let it control your life because you'll drown. You really will. I remember being very guilty when I was younger for forging my mom's signature on my clarinet practice sheets. It was like elementary school. It was a total joke, but I felt so guilty. They didn't find out or anything. And about a week later, I felt so guilty that I was so guilt-ridden to the point of crying, running to my mother and confessing the whole thing. And she was like, oh, well, you're going to apologize to them, blah, 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 blah. But she had no idea. I could have gone away with the whole thing. But I went and confessed, and I was so guilt-ridden. It was killing me. And, but later on in life now, sometimes I felt guilty, and I definitely acknowledge that guilt, and I try and understand it. But sometimes I say, you know what? There's no reason to feel this guilty for this. Like skipping my psych class, all my teacher does is talk about her children the whole time, and I didn't feel good, and I didn't want to sit there and listen to her, so I skipped it. It's not worth drowning yourself in guilt over something like that. It isn't. And if you feel to disagree, you can disagree, but I definitely think I think there's something the Buddhists say about, don't let guilt get to you, or you should have no reason to be guilty. And moving on to grief. Grief's an interesting thing. My grandmother passed away in January, and I was never that close to her. I mean, we were close, but sadly, for most of the time that I was cognizant enough to have memories of her, she had already been fading with dementia. So she was more my crazy grandma. She wasn't, like my other grandma I was closer to because she was still very coherent and could be a grandmother, whereas my other grandma who passed away, she was losing her mind, literally. But I mean, I had times with her that I loved, and I have memories of her. But when I was little and she was still with it and took care of me and stuff, I don't have memories of, which is a shame. But her memorial service is coming up soon. And sometimes I feel guilty about not having cried quite so much when she died. But recently it kind of hit me that she was gone. And I cried. I felt very sad. I seem to grieve later usually. I remember when my dog died. The next day, we had to put her down, and she was the love of my life. I mean, she was like a mother. My dog was like my mother. She took care of me, and the next day after we put her down, my close friend brought me cookies. I was just like, oh, thank you. And I was happy. I was fine. I was going around school. I wasn't crying, but then like a month later, I broke down and bawled my eyes out like a baby. And I definitely think that it's definitely something that happens for a lot of people. The sadness of losing a loved one doesn't hit you until later, in a way, because their absence becomes you become aware of their absence, I guess. You go to, like my dog used to always go downstairs with me because I was afraid of the basement, and I had to overcome my fear on my own because it was about a week after, and I had to go down the basement in the dark. She wasn't there to go with me, and I had to overcome that fear and be courageous and go down there and get the laundry. But then I cried because I realized she wasn't there anymore. Yeah. Gonna make myself cry. I don't know. I still go back to this acting thing, like Natalie Portman again was saying how it requires a lot of empathy. to be an actor, and it also requires a lot of putting yourself into it. Brad Pitt was saying something like that, and I feel like I do that. I feel like I am that. I empathize strongly. I mean, I'm a sucker for movies. I'm absolutely a movie buff. I can watch 4 movies a day and completely connect to each character in the movies, and it takes a lot to get me. I mean, I can enjoy the like more popular movies that don't have as much meaning. But the movies that get me are, Green Mile, man. That'll make me cry any day. Not so much when the man dies, but when the mouse died the first time and then it gets back to life, I cried, and all sorts of things like that. You can really connect to. And I remember one time I had to fake cry, and all I did was think of my mother dying. I got myself to fake cry easily. Or thinking about sad things can just bring that easily, and I can do that. And then, when I was on the phone April Fool's Day pranking my friend, I put myself in that situation. There was one line where he says, wait, I was kind of sobbing, kind of weirdly. He never heard me cry before, so he doesn't know if I'm crying or not. And I just kind of paused, and he says, so, wait, you're serious? And I was like, I just paused, and instead of saying yeah or something, I just said, I don't know what to do. With that tone, with a little bit of, gaspiness. That wasn't completely it, but I had myself in tears. I was so into my character, I guess. And he goes, his response was, he was crapping his pants, and then I went April Fool's. But, I don't know. Maybe I'll try it sometime. It's just hard to figure out how or when, because it's definitely putting yourself out there to go try and join the acting scene, because those are very tight-knit groups, drama groups. And then going and trying to audition somewhere like in LA, and you're putting yourself up for a lot of judgment, because half of the acting world is appearance. And I know there'll be a million comments saying, no, you're pretty, blah blah blah, but I mean, this light makes me pretty. I have makeup on today, and it's not everything about you, and it's not going to make you perfect in every scene. And yeah. And I wouldn't want to be cast because of being pretty. I'd want to be cast, if I was going to go into that world, I would only do it if I was talented and able to be a good actress. Because any blonde bimbo can go walk up on the stage and, play the flirty character. I mean, Marilyn Monroe spent years of her life trapped in typecasting, and it didn't turn out too well for her. But I think, I guess it's self-righteous to say this, but sometimes I want to be an idol. I want to be someone's idol, Maybe that's why I'm so good at getting along with kids. I don't treat them as inferior little kids. I treat them kind of as equals. I get along with kids, and I remember I volunteered at the Gloria Gates Foundation, where it's an after-school program for children with bad homes. And one little girl that I spent a lot of time talking to, she just one day said, I really like you. You make me feel better about myself and stuff like that. And all I had done was, treat her as equal, be actually interested in her life and stuff. And I guess it's kind of selfish, but I enjoyed that feeling of, having made someone's world better. I guess she reminded me of me a little too. She was kind of one of those kids in the middle. When you have a group of kids, like a class, there's the ones on the top who are either, the smart ones, the gifted ones, and then there's the ones on the bottom who are the either, troublemakers and such, or they're comedic, or they have little talents of their own, attention-getting talents and stuff, where I was in the middle. I was I was quiet, not too quiet, and I wasn't anything special. I wasn't super smart. I wasn't stupid. I was always in the middle, and I guess I saw her as in the middle, and no one really took the time to, talk to the middle kids, and I did. I think that's definitely a problem in our society, is ignoring the middle. But I guess then again, we don't like average. We don't, revere the average person. We don't hold up on a pedestal someone who lived an average life, And it's like a continuous problem making, trying not just to be average. We all want to be special. But it's hard because there's so many of us. There can't be all special people, because then everyone would be average. Again, special will become the average. Yeah, but I don't know. I guess I'll have to think about it and think of maybe later in life I'll go and I'll drive to LA for pilot season or something and audition. But it's hard to figure out because my family, my father at least, his values are very, very money driven. He's very Jewish, and I'm not. But I do understand him. He wants me to succeed and not have to scrape and save to get by in life, and so he wants me to be a lawyer or a scientist, and he wants me to be happy, but he wants me to be happy rich. Whereas I just want to do something that I love, and working in movies or something would absolutely be the dream of my life. I mean, if I accomplished that, I wouldn't be happier, ever. I'd probably hit the high point of my life if I accomplished, working in movies in some way, even not being an actress, but somehow being involved in movies. Being a movie critic, something like that, but to my dad, there's no money in that, and I can't pursue that as a career. It's not a high enough goal, I guess. So, point being, I don't know. I have to sit down and figure out my shit. Because currently I'm just kind of floating around, like I said before, waiting for a breeze to push me in a direction. Yeah. Well, if anyone has anything to say, or, agrees or has any ideas for me on life, I guess, feel free to leave me a response video or a comment. And yeah, and if you like my videos, maybe I'll make more. It's just, it works out right now because my roommate's not here, so she's not bothering me, because if I tried and made a video with her here, she'd get all in it and she'd look at me weird and stuff, so yeah, it won't be for a while. But yeah, if you did listen to this, thank you. I don't know who wants to listen to me or why, but just remember that, I don't know, I think everyone's special in some way, and everyone needs to remember just to try and be a good person in life, just for the sake of it. Not for yourself, not for some goal of, enlightenment or reincarnation as something better or going to heaven. Just try and be good, because it's a tough world and we need to be the greater good. So bye.